Armory disc golfers, I know that by now throwing 400 plus foot shots for you is a breeze. You carve up wooded fairways, doesn't matter how tight you hit the lines, but unfortunately that's not all there is to disc golf. I've been looking at UDisc and boys, the scores aren't where they want them to be yet. So today we're going to focus on the part of the game that can make you a little bit of money. You can drive for show, but it's time to learn to putt for dough. Let's get into it. Tip number one, down the pole, up the pole. Other people refer to this as spray painting the pole, because if you can envision spray painting the center pole of the basket that keeps it in the ground, you would want to go down, give it a coat, back up, give it a second coat. And if you watched me on our channel and some of our other videos, you know that I like to give it several coats as I warm up for my putt to try to visualize it and make things right. So the idea here is to get the leading nose of the disc that's going to be going straight towards the basket on your release, to keep that centered on the pole. Start near the top of the pole or at the top of the pole. You keep it on the pole as you go all the way down. I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see. Keep it on the pole as you go all the way down, and then as you go back up, you keep it centered on the pole. Obviously, a couple caveats. One, this is easier to envision if you have your finger on the rim, either just slightly touching it, you know, Paul McBeth style, or slapped firmly on there. But I'm a putter who uses this sort of thinking. I use a tucked finger. Sorry, I'm being eaten alive by these mosquitoes. I keep a tucked finger, but I still just think of the leading nose of the disc staying on the center of the basket throughout my reach back and then my putt forward. This eliminates missing left and right while you're putting, because instead of thinking about having to aim, left and right and up and down, now you've got the left and right out of it, and you just have to think about getting it the correct height to get the disc in the basket. Reducing variables is always a good thing in long-term, consistent improvement in your scores. Another caveat, obviously this works best for push putters, so push putters and spin putters will get to you in just a little bit, but this can work for any putting style. Tip number two, maybe this is 1B. I'm a spush putter, so instead of thinking down the pole, up the pole like I used to, as time has gone on, my putt has slightly changed, and so now, as someone who likes to do a bit of a push to eliminate those variables like I talked about before, but also wants to pop it a little bit at the end to give it a little extra snap, I think, personally, of going down the pole, at the pole, if that makes sense. So I keep it, same idea, I keep the disc centered into my body, going down the pole of the basket, and then I push straight out, spinning it more to get the disc into the basket. That one was a little bit high, but I kept it centered on the basket, and so I'm allowed to miss by a little bit because I'm not missing left and right, or right and high, or left and high. It's just dead center and high. This is only about a 20-foot putt. This is nothing super impressive, but this is just, you get the idea. These sorts of things over time can help your game. All right, my next one's for the spin putters of the group. Instead of going down the pole, up the pole, you can use the same sort of idea, but instead of going down and up, you just go in and out. And you want to keep this on the same sort of plane. You don't want to be going in and across, or in and tuck. People don't really, I don't see anybody do this, but I see a lot of people who'll bring the disc over to the side of their body and try to swing it out and really snap it like they're throwing forward. But if you just keep the disc on one plane here, all you have to worry about is missing up and down, not left and right. Because you can see the disc here, goes back here, goes forward here. It should continue traveling straightforward, more or less. Obviously the disc is gonna fade a little bit, but it should continue more or less in a straightforward path, and you should eliminate missing left and right. All you have to worry about then is missing up and down. So I'm gonna wrap this section up by just saying, if down the pole, up the pole, if in and out or whatever doesn't do it for you mentally, then choose something else, but have some sort of mental cue that you are thinking of while you putt. It's good to have an aim point. I could set that as a separate tip, I suppose, but I'm just gonna tell you, aim at a specific spot on the basket and then putt towards it. But you can't just look at a chain link and then just think, I'm gonna focus in on that chain link, and whatever happens over here, I'm gonna hope to release at that chain link. You need to have something that keeps you in line, whether or not you are pushing the disc straight at that chain link, spinning the disc straight at that chain link, but have something in your mind. Philo says, for whatever reason, he likes to say apple pie. If you've ever watched a clinic of his, you may have heard him use that terminology. Works for him, doesn't really do it for me. I like thinking down the pole, up the pole while I putt to keep me mentally engaged and focused on what I'm doing before I get to the release point, because all this stuff down here that you're doing on your reach back is going to affect where the disc comes out of your hand. Next, while we're talking about things to think about while you're putting, because putting is so mental, I want to show you that the basket is about the same width as your body. Now, I'm not the most broad-shouldered guy, so the basket is a little bit wider than me, but if I keep the disc within the frame of my body, then it should also stay within the frame of the basket. If I start pulling the disc down here, then now I'm outside the frame of the basket. If I try to release now coming up and across, I'm more likely to finish outside of the frame of my body, and then therefore outside the frame of the chains. You can do a lot of things and get away. There's a lot of room for acceptability. You see people putt like this, you see people putt like this. But if you keep that disc framed within your body, it doesn't matter if you stagger or if you straddle, if you keep it framed in the center of your body throughout your reach back and your putt, you should have a better chance of keeping it framed in the chains and making it in the basket as well. This is sort of another one of those mental cue things, but it's really a way for you to visualize whether or not you're straying offline or where you are straying offline. I'm just going to quickly talk about stagger putting versus straddle putting. If you've seen me in other footage on our channel, you know I'm a straddle putter. The reason that I do this is because applying these same sorts of ideas that I've been talking about, I find that it's easier to stay down the pole, at the pole, or down the pole, up the pole, or in to out if I'm squared up directly with my target, and I find that it's easier for me to keep the disc centered in the frame of my body if I'm squared up with the target. Whereas when I stagger, my shoulders turn just a little bit. I don't know of many people who straddle or who stagger putt, and by stagger putt I mean having one foot in front of the other instead of just both shoulder width apart even with the other. I don't know of many people who stagger putt and directly face the target. Most have a sort of a turn, an angle away from the target, and so I just feel like it shrinks that visual cue for me. Obviously, most of the best putters in the world stagger putt, so I am not knocking it. I'm just telling you that for me, this is what I've found to be helpful, and if you are starting out on your putting journey and you haven't tried putting both of your feet shoulder width apart, getting down into a bit of an athletic stance, and keeping the disc center of the basket, maybe give it a try. If you've only tried that way, then maybe try turning and stagger putting. Maybe that'll give you a little bit more pop, a little bit more power on your putts. To each their own. But that's going to lead into our next tip. Whatever you choose, however you choose to putt, push putt, spin putt, straddle putt, stagger putt, spush putt, scuba putt, I don't care. Pick something that feels good for you, that you feel like you can do fairly consistently. Obviously, a lot of us struggle with this being a consistent thing. That's why we're watching videos like the one that we're currently on. But pick something that's fairly consistent for you and just stick with it. It's going to take you hundreds, if not thousands of throws to finally hone in that feeling of of a correct putt over and over and over in different positions, around trees, different angles, different lengths. So if you're constantly changing the way that you pull through, if you're pushing today and spinning today, if you're anhyzer putting and then hyzer putting, if you're straddle and then stagger, you're just throwing so many different variables in over and over and over. Pick something and stick to it. Finally, again, putting being mostly a mental thing, you've got to commit to the putt. If you're scared about your putt, I'm the most guilty person in the world of this. If you're scared about missing your putt and you really try to aim that sucker and just into the basket, then you're probably gonna out of the basket. It's gonna trickle out of chains. It's just not gonna end up well long-term consistently. So pick what you want to do to putt, stick with it, and do it confidently. You don't have to go berserk and zing something at the basket. I was actually trying to make that, but that's point proven. You don't have to just zing something at the basket full force, but do something firm and something confident. And more putts should go in. Thank y'all for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, please leave a like. We really appreciate it. Comment, let us know what sort of videos you want to see next or what you thought of this one, and subscribe because we've got more coming weekly. If you need a putter, we've got them. ArmoryDiscGolf.com. Go grab yourself a stack so you can go out and practice with. Get those hundreds or thousands of practice shots in quicker so you can start banging them in at your local minis, flex starts, and tournaments. If you want some merch, we've got hats, we've got shirts recently hit the shelves again, so go check those out as well. Appreciate you watching. See us again. Until next time, fight the good fight.